All right.
How about pour some wine?
I know. What are we going to start with? Rosé?
I think that looks like rosé.
I think so. Here we go. Well, I think, are we all in, Christina? Okay, awesome.
We're good. Yep.
Excellent. All right, I've got my list of questions and a plan. So, hello, everybody. Oh, I forgot I need to do this so I can. Oh, you have to talk because I forgot to set up the comments thing.
Oh,
carry on. I just forgot. I'm off my game now that we don't do it every month.
No, she's still on the cruise somewhere in Europe.
You're gonna have to let me in again, Christina.
All right, great. Welcome everybody, and it's
are.
Both a fun and crazy time of the year at Black Ankle. So we're going to try to update you on that, and then we're going to go through three new wines that we have to taste today. So right now I have the 2021 Rosé, and let's see. I'll give a quick vineyard. What's going on while you're doing that?
Okay.
We have finished our planting after much stress. I won't go through. Finished planting 41 acres. For perspective, just what we planted this year would be, I think, the third biggest vineyard in Maryland. Black Ankle being the second biggest. So just our planting this year was kind of huge for the local industry. And we'd never done anything that big before. It was an awful lot of vines to plant at one time, 76,000 vines.
76,385, just about.
I forgot the 385, sorry, but 36,000 vines. Our crew just did a phenomenal job. So that was good. So we're really happy about that. That brings us up to about 40 acres or so at Live Edge Vineyards in Clarksburg. And then we planted about 16 acres at our new little vineyard also in Clarksburg, about 10 minutes away. Little to us, 31 acres, but it's kind of a big piece of land, I guess. And then there's a few other acres planted up in Carroll County, but we'll have to talk about that later. But we're taking care of those as well. So we're all excited about that. We almost have all the trellis built, and we're off and running. And at Black Ankle, we missed all of the frosts, yay, in the spring. Yeah. We barely.
We got a smidge here and there, just enough for us to know that we were very lucky.
Tiny little bit. Yeah, and so that was great. The buds were not quite out enough when it was bad frost, and then we were just high enough that some of the frost missed us. So that was really good. Otherwise, the vineyard looks really good. We're trying to keep ahead of weeds and all the other things and all that, but the usual stuff.
Stuff. Yeah, we had a cold spring, as you'll remember, with all the frost talk. So that helped a little bit, and that everything kind of slowed down in the beginning, which saved us from frost issues and everything else. But for whatever reason, you're probably seeing it in your own yard, in your own garden, like when you have a cool spring, often if you get that warm weather, the plants just grow like crazy. So
they just catch up,
which is fine except for the weeds. It's all good except for the weeds.
Which is tough. One of the downsides of our area versus other wine regions is we have the most compact growing season. We have this cold winter, so our vines, they don't come alive until usually, April 20th, let's say on average, or something like that. In Bordeaux, it's usually mid-March. And in California, it can often be early March or even late February,
right,
where the vines start growing. But we all harvest around the same time. So their just growing season is longer. You'd think there's some downsides to that, but the big upside to a longer growing season is you have a lot more time to do your work. Your vines don't grow so fast. Right. Now they're growing so fast that we're literally running, trying to get these shoots put in the wires and this thing done and that thing done and all of it arranged correctly. It's tough. So this is the go time of year in the vineyard anyway. So,
sure enough.
Good stuff.
Yeah.
All right. You got it all set? Excellent. So,
one kid is supposed to be picking up another kid.
So, all right. Well, I wait for Sarah to come back. We're talking. So we're drinking the 2021 Rosé, and I know we had a few questions about it. Sarah and I are big Rosé fans. It's maybe one of our favorite styles of wine that there are. And if I had a desert island and one bottle of wine I could bring, it would be Rosé. Could be ours or could be somebody else's really good, but it sounds strange, but it just makes me happy drinking that wine. Rosé wines, I don't know why. So For us, for a couple of years, we didn't make rosé, or we tried to make rosé our first couple of years, and we weren't very happy with it. And we finally came up with a way that we thought we could make a rosé, which both gives you that sort of freshness and acidity and sort of palate cleansingness of a really good rosé, but also has that wonderful nose of some really good fruit. And our favorite secrets now are, turns out that some varieties are really good at making a rosé and some varieties are not. And we've discovered that Cabernet Sauvignon, for instance, wonderful red wines, makes pretty lousy rosé. I've never had a Cabernet Sauvignon rosé that I particularly like. Some are okay and some are awful.
I think especially if they're picked when the fruit is ripe. Yeah. I think it makes a big difference. So I missed if you talked about picking them early or not.
No, we didn't get to picking yet. But yeah, it's partly that. It's partly that I think even we notice this when we pick our Cab Sauv, the juice of the Cabernet Sauvignon is not that interesting. Once it's with the skins, it starts to pick up all sorts of interesting stuff. So what we have figured out in the varieties that we have, Syrah is fabulous. The juice of Syrah is great.
Just as juice, right?
So the more of that we can get into, the more Syrah base into our rosé, the better. Merlot is also very good, but not at the Syrah level, but it's pretty good. Petit Verdot is pretty good. Malbec is pretty good. It drops off quickly from there.
Not so good in a rosé, at least in our experience.
Yeah, neither of the cabs. So once we started figuring that out, we figured out some other things about when we make it and all that. You were going to talk about picking and
just when you're making rosé. So if we pick all of our wines when they're or all the red so all of our rosés are made by bleeding, well, except for Bedlam Rosé, which we're going to talk about also. But for the most part, our rosés are made from the red wines that we just drain the juice off right away after we pick them. But we're picking them at a point where the fruit is ripe for a big fat red wine. So another way to make rosé is to pick everything a little bit earlier, and then use much more of the juice, and it'll make a different style. And I think for that, the varieties are a little less picky. I feel like you're going to have a little bit. You see more often a Cabernet Sauvignon or something that can make a decent rosé when you do that.
Yeah.
The big difference is that as the fruit gets ripe, the sugar levels go up, the flavors go up, but also the acidity tends to drop. So if you pick early to make kind of this early harvest rosé, you'll end up with a lot more acidity in your juice. It won't generally not make your still wine so good. So often people only make rosé out of those wines. Whereas we're doing a little bit of a mix, I guess. We'll pull some off. I don't know. Yeah.
Yep. So. Great. And so what we get is when we run off juice early, it doesn't have much color. The juice is always clear. So it's going to get a little bit of color because when you pick it and when you crush the grapes a little bit, some color starts coming out. But you get this beautiful sort of pinkish light color in the juice, and that's pretty much it. We then treat it like a white wine from there, just ferment it in a tank. And here it is. It's a really simple wine to make. You can mess it up pretty easily because it's delicate. But when we do it right, we get something really fresh and really with some great fruit in it.
One of our favorite summer things.
So this one is almost all Syrah, Merlot.
It's the Malbec in it, doesn't it?
I think it has the Malbec in it as well. I believe it's just those three. So I'd have to look it up.
Yes, it is. I can read it. Syrah, Merlot, a little Malbec, 7% Malbec. Yes, it had some Malbec in one of our Merlot press loads or something. But yeah.
So there you go.
So that's what's that. Excellent. So there's a question about what's the difference between this and Bedlam Rosé. Did I miss that in my minute off? Okay, no.
Did not. Nope.
So.
Oh, there's a big difference between those two. So the biggest one is this one we made on purpose, and the Bedlam Rosé we made by accident.
At least the first one.
The first one.
The first one. Yeah. So I want to say all rosé. Almost all rosés are made from red grapes only. That's sort of the traditional way to make them. And as I said, you can either kind of have your red grapes that you pick early, a little bit earlier, so they still have all that kind of brightness and acidity, and use almost all your juice. You pick up a little bit of color, and you'll make kind of like a purpose-built rosé. I don't know if you want to call it that. Then the other kind of major style would be to do what we're doing, which is wait till the fruit is ripe to make kind of your big red wines, and then just pull off a little bit of the juice. And the reason that we do that is, I mean, the reason we drain a little bit of the juice in the beginning is to make a rosé, but also because it concentrates what's left. So what you end up with when you go, like when we taste our leaf stone, as though we planned it. When we get to the leaf stone, because we pulled a lot of the juice off of that Syrah in order to make rosé from the Syrah juice, that leaf stone is much more concentrated and interesting than it would be otherwise. So those are kind of the two normal ways to make rosé, or the two normal like thought processes. The Bedlam Rosé is a little strange in that it is a blend of white wine and red wine to make pink wine. It's not the usual way to do it. I don't know if there's any other rosés that are blends like that.
Very few.
Very few. Yeah, it's kind of
rosé champagne is actually that.
Yes, that's true. That's true. It's a blend. Yeah, that's true. Although not always, because sometimes it's just, you know. Anyway, it could be. You could have both. But that's so in this case, I think Ed talked about, we tried for a while to try to figure out how to make rosé, and we hadn't really had much luck. And then we have always made. We still would bleed some of the wine off anyway in order to make the red wines, what we wanted to do. And in 2011, Bedlam Rosé was invented in 2011. And 2011 was kind of a crazy year. It was a pretty beautiful growing year right up until the middle of September, right? And then it just started to rain, and it rained every day for like the next month. So we did our entire harvest in 3 weeks. Usually our harvest is like 6-7 week span, something like that. It was just because the weather was just lousy. We were all out there picking like crazy. And so just everything got going really fast. And because the grapes, the vines had drunk a bunch of water in the rain, which is why we're so busy picking them, we ended up with like a lot more wine than we usually have. So it was a little chaotic in the winery. There was a lot going on. Things were moving fast from tank to tank and place to place. And we just had a hose hooked up to the wrong place. So we had the Bedlam in a certain tank, and we went to bleed off some Merlot, and our vineyard manager had done it. He just remembered where the Bedlam had been and forgot that it was in a different tank now. And so we went to put the Merlot in this empty tank, and it wasn't an empty tank, and we accidentally got it in there. And, you know, at the time we just thought, in fact, that was one of those days when Ed was at the farm. Our kids were it's 2011. So like at that point we were sort of like, somebody would stay home and watch our kids and somebody would go to work. And I got a call from Vincia, who's our vineyard manager still. And he called, and he was so upset because he'd made this mistake. And, you know, we thought we had lost, I don't know, 500 cases of wine or something, like a fairly significant amount of wine, but I didn't know any of that. I get a call from him. This is all in my like halfway Spanish, right? And it starts out, and he's like, I am so sorry. Something terrible has happened. You know, I've worked for you for so long. I've never done anything like this. And I'm like, I'm just picturing horrible things, like somebody's died, somebody's had a horrible accident. And I don't, he's clearly very upset. So I don't want to be like, cut to the chase. What happened? But I'm also like, it's okay. How is everyone? Anyway, finally, by the time he gets to, I got a little red wine in your white wine, I was like, oh my God, who cares? Whatever, you know, we'll throw it away. Everybody's safe. No one's hurt. It's okay. So anyway, so our first reaction was like, well, you know what? Sometimes those things go wrong. That's the way it goes. And then because we don't like to waste anything, we just started tasting it, and we thought, actually it tastes pretty good. We kind of like it. So we brought it to the blending table, and we added a little more of this and a little more of that. And then we decided to bottle it. So that was really our first successful rosé. I mean, we hadn't figured out how to make rosé before. So we learned a few tricks along the way after that, but because that was only our fourth harvest, 8, 9, no, like 6 or 7th. But
and it was hard because the Bedlam was still fermenting. We added 12%, turns out, of Merlot juice to it. So the Merlot juice had a little bit of color, and we made this wine, and it was really good. It was really good. And so now we get customers asking sometimes, when are you going to make another Bedlam Rosé? And it's just hard to recreate what we did, because you'd need it all getting picked at the right times at the right, and it was just because the Merlot was picked so early and because that year was so compacted. So we have made a couple other Bedlam Rosés since then, I think. We're going to try to come back to, we will do it sometimes when we think we can get the right
combination,
right things close enough to what it originally was to do.
And for whatever reason, we have liked it better when we've been able to ferment it together rather than just blend it later. Or start mostly fermented together. So, so that is the difference between those two wines and the story of Bedlam Rosé.
Excellent.
So there you go.
Great. All right.
Back through our question list. So wine change. Do we have a favorite rosé that we've ever made? I like that. Just like
that we ever made.
Do we have a favorite? I don't know.
This one's in the glass. That tends to be my favorite. No, I don't think I have a favorite over the years. I just like it to be what it like. I don't know. Somehow having a favorite is too analytical for this wine. I just want to drink it. I don't want to like compare I'll compare years of Crumbling Rock or any of our other wines. Like we'll do that, but somehow the rosé, like
I don't know.
Yeah. For me.
And would we ever make a sparkling rosé? Maybe, because we like to try lots of things. You never know. I won't.
We tried one last week, right?
No, but we have made one. We drank one. Yeah. It's really easy to drink them. That's much easier than making them.
Yeah.
I highly recommend.
For me, we haven't even talked about this, but I would think about making a sparkling rosé. I love the way they look. And I always want to order them because they're so beautiful. And then when I order them, they're always a little bit heavy. And like for me, a sparkling wine has to be like weightless. Like no light, just weightless in your mouth. It just bubbles and effort. And somehow I've never really had a rosé champagne that was as weightless like that. So if we could figure out how to do that, I'm all in. I would love it because I love the color and I love the.
They're very festive. I think it's kind of extra fun. So we'll see. I would say never say never because we always want to do something.
Yeah,
we gotta get down. We gotta figure out our process for regular sparkling wine first, and then we'll move on to the fun stuff.
Cool.
So good. All right, you're on. Oh, you switched to Leaf Stone.
Oh, which one?
No, that's fine. Beverly Hills is next on my list, but I think Leaf Stone actually makes a lot of sense. So, there we go.
Okay.
All right. So we talked a little bit about, these are two different vintages, so I can't really say that this one's so much better because of the first one, but in theory it is. The 21 will be, when you get it, will be so much better because of that rosé.
Oh, because
I was saying when you taste the Leaf Stone, you're going to say it's benefited from the rosé, assuming you're tasting the same wines we're tasting.
Yeah, this benefited from the 19.
Yes, the 20. This is the 20. So.
That's right. So we should say a little bit about these 2 years too, because we're drinking a 20, a couple of 20s and a 21. So the 20s that we've just bottled, 20 was I think it's most similar year we've had is 2006. A lot of the wines tend to remind us of our very
20.
First
vintage. From 20, yes.
Really elegant, really long, maybe not as concentrated as say the 19s or the 10s or something like that, but beautiful wines. And we're really happy because the growing season, we had some rain at the end, we had some rain in the beginning. Like it was 20 wasn't a perfect growing season, but maybe it's average for what we get around here. So and 19 was a kind of big, hot, very small yield. So we didn't make a lot of wine in 19. But kind of like a huge year, and then the 20 is a little more even keeled, I would say. But we've been really happy with the wines. Yeah. So great, and the Leaf Stone Syrah I think is a great example, like some really nice concentration and also some wonderful fruit in there, and just some length, and those are wines that kind of say they made themselves, but blending was pretty easy, and the winery there weren't a lot of issues. We just had to kind of put them in a bottle.
Do their thing. Yeah. So I think if you were on this Zoom, you had access to buy the Leaf Stone, but it's officially, I'm supposed to explain, the official release is Father's Day, Juneteenth weekend, which is coming up. We always forget, we always feel like the Mother's Day gets a lot of love. We're trying to have equal time for the fathers. We're going to do the same fun thing. So we're doing a whole tasting, whatever event on that whole weekend around the Leaf Stone. So if you want to try the Leaf Stone with lots of different little things to see what it tastes like with different foods. I mean, not too many crazy different foods, but like a little bit of a little tasting thing. So
great.
That is coming up.
We missed one question about the rosé. What temperature should we drink the rosé at? And I think it's best, like I'm not sure what a number is, but like if you took it out, if it was in the fridge and you took it out and let it sit for 15 or 20 minutes.
20 minutes maybe, yeah.
That'd be about the right temperature. It should be cold, but not quite fridge cold.
Yeah, not like in an ice bucket cold. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's great when it gets colder.
Like maybe a little warmer than a white.
Yeah. As it gets colder, the aromas go away and the acidity, your perception of the acidity goes up the colder the wine is. So you want it at that sweet spot where you can still get perception of aromas, but your acidity is about right. If it gets too warm, then it gets kind of flat.
You can start to taste really flat. Yeah.
So you don't want to do that. Yeah.
Yeah. But again, it's a little bit with temperature in any wine. Actually, you can play with the temperature to adjust the wine a little bit to what you like. So if you love like a super bright, acidic, sharp wine, any wine, you just keep it really cold and you'll get much more of that. If you like a little bit softer, like you get it a little warmer, I mean, within windows.
Don't boil it.
Don't boil it. Well, you'll get something. You could try it, but it'll change the wine for sure. Anyway, so you can adjust that a little bit and see what you think. So
great.
What do I think the aging potential of the leaf stone is going to be? And how do we know the aging potential of wine in general? Excellent question. That's my story.
Let me take that in general one first. I have no idea how people know this. You see wine reviews that say drink from 2025 to 2035 or something like that. Do they know? I don't know. I've kept wines in the past until some of those critics have said you should drink it, and for me, usually I wish I'd drunk it before that. So on the other hand, like Black Ankle wines, we're going back and tasting some of the wines from 06, 08, 2010, and they're aging beautifully. The nice acidity that we usually have in our wines helps a lot for aging. And this leaf stone has really nice acidity in it. So it should age well, but I don't know. Yeah. It does change as it ages. So it's not that there's a better, everyone's has to find their individual where they like the wines. I kind of like them a little younger than most people do, but.
But generally if you're looking to age a wine, you want to have good acidity and a fair amount of tannin, and then fruit that is still strong. So those are kind of the three elements that we look at when you're trying to think of like, is this a wine that would age? And then concentration, I guess. So, when we're doing the blending and thinking about the wines, say if we're trying to decide like, does this wine belong in kind of what we would label as Syrah or leaf stone or phyllite? In our minds, the Syrah is going to age a little less time. The leaf stones and phyllites are going to be the kinds of wines that would age. Yeah. And part of that decision is coming from the bigger, more tannic, stronger fruit, more concentrated wines they're going to last longer. So, and sometimes to the point that, well, like we just got back from Bordeaux, and I see half the people came by, the people who were there.
Shout out to Lynn.
I know, Lynn, how are your hands? I see. Oh, God, anyway. But they look like they're working. So anyway, well enough, yeah. Whatever. We tasted some wines in Bordeaux that were so tannic. I mean, they were so hard to drink, maybe 5 or 6 years old. And the description is, but it'll be lovely in 25 years. Like, well, maybe, but it's just kind of a funny idea that it's a good thing to want to wait a long time.
But yes, I think this quick summary is this leaf stone Syrah will age really well. Yeah. It'll be great in 10 years. Will it be great in 25 years? I don't know. But I don't know.
Well, so far the oldest one we have is their coming rock, and it's still hanging on. The 06,
Yeah, what's that? 15, 16 years old?
It's getting there. Yeah, it's hanging on. So
doing great.
And it is fun to go back and it's not, not every crumbling rock will age as long as the others. It really depends a little bit on what the year's like. That's why we have our little chart. We're trying to keep track every time we taste it to see where things are. Yep. And then there's a question about the difference between leafstone and phyllite. And how do we decide? I mean, really, it's at the blending table. We go in and we taste the different wines. And I would say if we were looking for kind of profiles, what we'll label as Syrah is going to be the most kind of bright fruit, maybe the freshest in terms of like a little softer, a little less like big tannins. And then leafstone and phyllite, it's a little sort of old world style, new world style. Like I would say the leafstone is usually a little more kind of elegant and like maybe a little more subtle as far as the impact. And the phyllite is going to be like a little bigger, kind of like bigger and more concentrated right up front.
Yeah.
I would say phyllite is more new world and leafstone is more old world in that when we get into that sort of general style.
Yeah, it's a slightly more new world. The new world style Syrah is not.
No, well, and it's not. That's true. It's not like what you would think of as like an Australian or
we really can't or don't want to either to grow that. But originally we came up with phyllite because we had this Syrah and we were just sitting at the blending table trying to blend it and we could not get it to work as one wine. But when we separated it into two lots, each lot was better than the mix, than the blend, which
can happen.
Just the way it happens. And it wasn't one vineyard block and it wasn't new barrels, low block. It was just this barrel and that barrel. I remember that thinking, what is this coming from? We could not figure it out, but it just wanted to be two different wines. So we made two different wines. And since then, when we have those, a vintage like that, we try to go through our Syrah and sometimes it just wants to be a couple of different wines. And so we'll take, as Sarah said, the one that feels a little bit more new worldy, even though we don't really make new worldy kind of Syrah. If it feels a little bit more that way, we'll call it phyllite. And then the one that feels a little bit more old world, Rhone style, we'll call leafstone.
Yeah. So. I mean, and when we say, I realize we're being very dated or whatever to say new world and old world. I mean, old world is like where these vines were most famously planted first. So like old vineyard world, which is basically Europe. And as far as style, and then new world is when people say new world, it basically means desert climate, which is just because that's where people started planting wine or vines more recently. So anyway, I like California. I mean, basically west coast of the U.S. and Australia, I would say. South Africa, maybe a little bit in between. New Zealand, maybe a little more old worldy style. So it's not a perfect. There's a question from the chat from Skip. Hi. Do you craft your wines with aging in mind, or is it a character of your vineyards and growing methods? We definitely think about the aging potential. Yeah, I mean, when we sit to blend the wines, we're thinking a lot about really the kind of the feel of the wine, like the weight of the wine, the density, but those things will have a big impact on the ageability. So we want our wines to be consistent when you taste them. We don't want like a lot of flavor and then like a little break and then it comes back. We want you to kind of have a consistent experience, I guess, as you go. But with the wines that are going to persist a lot longer while you're tasting them are also going to be the ones that are going to age a lot longer. The wines that are the most concentrated when you're tasting are the ones that are going to age a lot longer.
Yep.
On general.
And us trying to blend to make a balanced wine. Balanced wines age better. We don't want anything with too high alcohol or anything with too much acidity or too little acidity. And when you blend those and you hit those sweet spots in the middle, those are also the ones that seem to age well. So I think, but all that being said, it comes out of the ground at Black Ankle at this age.
Right. Yeah. I mean,
we could do all the things we want to say. We're going to create a 20-year wine that ages for 20 years, but not like the site has to do it for you. The terroir, the dirt, the ground, whatever you want to call it, has to do that for you. And it seems to be doing it for us, which is great.
I mean, there's a little bit of crop level and vineyard care and how long you let it hang before you pick it that goes into it, I would say as well. But yeah, I mean, it's got to be at a site that's going to make those vines happy, not too happy. Happy enough.
Happy, but not too happy.
There you go. So there's a question in general about Syrah and Syrah decline and how many original Syrah vines are still kicking and how many are we still planting clones? So in case anybody is not familiar with Syrah decline, there's this weird issue, I guess, around the world where Syrah vines have just started to die. And this has been going on pretty seriously, maybe the last 15 years, probably worse than the last 10 years. And there've always been grape diseases and certain things that kill plants, but something about this issue is like only seems to hit Syrah, and the research just isn't quite there yet to understand exactly what's going on. So there hasn't been one identifiable, virus or fungus or critter eating them or anything that's like hitting Syrah vines. It's just for some reason. And it's not, it doesn't move around vineyards like a lot of other things. So often if you have an issue that comes in, like it'll all be concentrated in one block, or you'll see it spreading out from one place. This Syrah decline issue is very strange. Like we'll have a whole block of vines and then speckled here and there at the fall. The way we see it is you'll see these like beautiful bright red leaves on some vines are gorgeous. And then like, they're dead. It's their little swan song. It's their last gasp of beauty. They're not, whatever's going on, it doesn't really seem to, like, there's no visible moving from vine to vine. Whereas, if you have an outbreak of, great root or powdery mildew or something, you'll see like it's concentrated in certain areas. And that has not been so much the case. And that's just everywhere in the world. It's not just a black ankle thing. But there has been a ton of research done on it. And there are different clones. So, within a variety, there are all these different kinds of Syrah. And there are some clones that are much more susceptible than others. And so where we have replanted a lot, and we are replanting mostly the clones that are much less susceptible. So we've had some, and it's hard to tell whether that's working, but because it's usually a few years in before you see the vines start to die. So we have some blocks that are much better than others. If you sit in the tasting room and you look at the little vineyard between the two driveways there, that's what we call the Esquina, and it's all Syrah. I know why I'm holding my hands like you can see the vineyard, that little vineyard that's like this up there in the corner. And what is it? The whole the side closest to the tasting room, just like is pretty well filled in and healthy and beautiful. And like, as you go towards the driveway, the entrance part of the driveway, you'll start to see that it's much spare. And if you got close enough to look at the vineyard placards, that's a change in clone. And so the right-hand side has much more of a clone that's been much more susceptible. We're filling in constantly with the healthy ones, so that should balance out eventually. But
I'm doing back to the envelope while you're thinking. I think out of our original 5.5 acres of Syrah, 3 is still alive. We've lost the vines from the other 2.5. And then we planted 4 acres at one point that all died. That was in addition to that, that all died. And then we replanted
winter too, though.
Another 8. Yeah, it was, but this virus, whatever it is, it's worse. It just dies in a hard winter.
Yeah.
So that one all died. And so we're up to 5. We have 5.5 acres now. It's mostly filled in. And that block, right, as Sarah was talking about, right in between it's landlocked in the driveways and Black Ankle Road there. That little block there on the edge toward the tasting room, we're now taking cuttings from that block and having them custom grafted to rootstock and brought back here, because we know that whatever the problem is, that block doesn't
seem to have it.
Planted in 2004, and they're all doing well. We have another block up on the hill that is also doing well, does not have this problem, but the wine's not nearly as good.
Syrah, you're right. This is a good combo.
Clonal difference between one Syrah and the other is huge, and so we have one up on the hill, which makes wonderful rosé. A lot of this rosé that we're drinking comes from that block, but the stuff right near the tasting room, that makes wonderful wine and is not dying. So we're taking cuttings from that. We're only planting from that.
And we did put a lot more Syrah in at the New Clarksburg property. I mean, we did. This is a testament to how much we like Syrah. Yes. We're willing to keep trying, because even though the vines die, I mean, every time we lose vines, we're like, should we give it up? Yep. And then we're like, let's have a bottle. Oh no, let's not give it up. So it does seem worth it. We'll keep trying and see how it all goes. But
and we planted what, 9 acres there, 10 acres?
Yeah. I mean,
so a lot more
than we already have.
Almost double than what we have at Black Acre.
We're convinced that we've figured out something that won't die, but you'll hear it here if we're wrong. You'll know.
And we planted some Grenache and some Mourvedre, so we might be able to blend a little something with Syrah and do some things that we can't do right now.
Yeah.
Pretty happy about that.
So there is a question here about do we have a favorite wine or year that we have bottled? Favorite year or favorite wine? I'm so bad at that. I don't know.
Yeah, it's like
Sort of 2006, because that was the first one that we just did. That's more sentimental value. It just depends on what you like, I think. So I don't know. There are different ones that I mean, the 10s I think are great. The 7s are great. Like if I were gonna 19, it's pretty awesome.
19's great. Yeah. The 13 was great. Yeah. 13 Crumbling Rock was great. I was partial to the 2012 Crumbling Rock, which I thought was great. The original Philite was so good.
Can't even remember when that was.
13.
13, right? Yeah.
Wow, I don't. Yeah, that's that would take a long time to answer that question.
We love them all. No, we don't love them all, but we love most of them.
Yeah.
We try hard to only like the one, like by the time it gets in the bottle to feel like it's good. So we're pretty dedicated to that. So even if we have some problem wines, we try not to let you have them. All right. So our last one. Yeah, there you go. But that's awesome. You had a vertical of Crumbling Rock in 2019 and 2006 was still the favorite. Ooh, especially with bacon wrapped dates. You can't go wrong with bacon wrapped dates on anything. So that's pretty awesome. Wow. That's good to hear because we don't taste it. I mean, there's almost no 2000. We have almost no 2006 Crumbling Rock.
Do we have like a case left or something?
Yeah, maybe a tiny bit more. We didn't know anything about saving. Yeah, Zoe, how much Crumbling? She's like, give me a second. She probably knows off the top of her head.
None for the likes of you two. Exactly. No, sorry, keeping that.
But when we first opened, we didn't have the idea of saving much, what we were going to do with it, why we would save it. So you got 8 of them. That's awesome.
That's great.
Anyway, so that's pretty fun. All right, the last one we have here is the Rolling Hills, also from 20. So it's been a little while since we made Rolling Hills.
Rolling Hills is back.
This is one of my favorites. I do love the Rolling Hills in general.
Yeah,
it's just like a go-to.
So we've made Rolling Hills almost every year, and what happens is once in a while we get a year that is a really small harvest, and it's all so good that we end up turning most of that wine into Crumbling Rock or Estate or something else, and then we count on the next year being a more average year, and we can then pull off some stuff to make a Rolling Hills kind of wine, and which we can talk about in a minute, what our vision for what Rolling Hills is. And because we had a couple of really crazy years, how much rain and craziness we got in 18, and then how much beautiful sun but very small harvest we got in 19, we ended up with a year without Rolling Hills. So I'm really happy to have it back.
Yeah. Right. And and we had 18. We did have an 18, but it was all right, but it wasn't my favorite.
Not my favorite.
This one's great. I will say. I don't know if everyone's drinking all these wines or we're the only ones actually drinking them. What people are drinking. But I think that 20 was good because it just gave us what we needed back. And so we've had a lot of Rolling Hills.
Yep. Great.
So how does it compare to earlier vintages? And has it had similar blends? I mean, the blends, they're all over the map. When we sit down to blend, we are not thinking about trying to have the same mix of grapes. I will say there are certain varieties that tend to end up in one or the other more often. Often the Crumbling Rock has a lot of Cabernet Sauvignon and a lot of Cabernet Franc in it. Often if the Malbec ends up in the Rolling Hills, Petit Verdot a little bit in everything. But sometimes it's
more Merlot.
More Merlot generally, yeah.
And I think the reason is because we think of Rolling Hills as the more, I'm going to use wine words, sorry, but like more exuberant, more approachable, more, I don't know, just
It's like a little more accessible kind of,
Yeah.
the Rolling Hills. Yeah.
Yeah. Whereas
for every day. Yeah.
Crumbling Rock or Estate are more concentrated, more have more length. They have more.
You feel more pressure to pay attention while you're drinking them.
And they're a little harder to. They're a little. Yeah, they demand your attention a little bit more than Rolling Hills will. How about that?
Yeah, good.
And so the Merlot tends to be more fruit forward, I guess, than the cabs, and more kind of more exuberant than the cabs.
It tends to be a little more kind of lush and a little more like fatty kind of, but maybe not as long aging also. And I think that's the you get into the Cabernet Sauvignon just tends to be, and Cabernet Franc really tends to kind of like unfold a little more slowly as you taste it. It's like a little more, it's more likely to linger a lot longer on your palate. It's more likely to go through kind of a series of flavors, whereas Merlot is a little more like just right there when you get there. So I can say Lucy, can I tell Lucien's thing? I probably can't. It's probably not even appropriate anymore, but our wine guy, well, he's French, our wine consultant, he says the Merlot is the wine that you just want to spend one night with. The Cabernet Sauvignon is who you bring home to meet your mother. That's like how he described him to us and trying to like explain. Anyway, that's a little bit true. It's like right there for you, the Merlot. And the Cabernet Sauvignon takes a little longer to get to know. Anyway, but it's good for the long haul. That's kind of and it does. It ages better. It's like anyway. So there you go. How many vintages of the estate have we done? 15, 16, 17, 19. 4. Yeah. We've done 4 vintages of the estate. There's no 20. There's no 18.
No 20.
21? Yeah, we'll see. The 21s are still in barrel. We'll see. So,
hey, Daniel.
Said, I know. There you go. You opened a bottle of 2008 in 18. Now, that's pretty interesting. That's great. Much better than when it was young. See, who knows?
So we get back to the question earlier about aging. We would say, because of the way it's blended, because of the balance in the fruit, and that the Crumbling Rock should age better than the Rolling Hills. But they're both. Rolling Hills is aging beautifully too. I don't know. Right. There's probably some wine expert somewhere in the world that could explain it, but it's not me.
There you go. Right. Well, and it's so varied. I think it's just so varied. Yeah.
But
here's some more questions. Yeah. Does your Rolling Hills have a capsule on it? Would you like to talk about why not?
Oh my gosh, yes. Let's So we've been trying to think a lot lately about our the resources we use and the impact. You know all this because of our straw bales and our green roofs. That's who we are. So we've always been. And every year we try to think, all right, what more can we do? And there's been a movement. It's still nascent in the industry, a little bit saying, wait a minute, we're all using these capsules, and the capsule is 100%.
I mean, everybody knows.
Decorative. So so this red part up here.
This is the capsule.
It originally, when it was invented, I think it kept mice away from the corks or something. I don't know.
That's right.
But
or the corks were a little less reliable, so it was like one layer of sealing. It's a little unclear. Yeah.
Now it literally does nothing except make the bottles more difficult to recycle, and so we're going to experiment with just not using one, and just saying, well, the best of all worlds is not recycle or reuse, but reduce. And so we're just trying to say, maybe we can do less. We already use the lightest bottles we can get. We're just trying to think it all through. So the Rolling Hills is going to have no capsule on it this year, and we'll see how.
A few of the wines we're going to do a few of the wines without them. Yeah. Viento, I think, doesn't. We'll see. We're doing Crumbling Rock tomorrow. I don't know. Do I use it? That's the next one. Never mind. I'm not talking about the Viento. Take it back. There's no such thing.
Yeah, there's no such thing. So we're going to do it. And please let us know both ways. If you like it or if you don't like it, let us know. Comments, let us know. Letting the staff know and everything, because, again, we don't want to be Luddites here. It's nice to have a beautiful looking bottle. But
Right.
How far do we go? How far do we not go? I don't know.
And there is something to this. I mean, like the cork, like the screw caps. We talked a lot about screw caps. We've done like the Passagetta and the Rosé under screw cap, which has a lot of positives. But you know, like the ceremony of opening it is a little different than with the cork. And there are wine reasons to have a screw cap or a cork. The capsule, there isn't really a wine aging reason to have it or not. So it really comes down to like, but we do a lot. We want the bottles to be beautiful. We want there to be a little something special about it. So like, it feels like it's missing it, then we should know. Anyway, we're trying to decide what we think as well. But so that is the gist of that. And to me, I think that was it for our questions. Oh yeah.
Yep.
So the absolute best thing about all of these wines, all of them, is that the wine is in the bottle. Because these are the first wines that I got bottled with that wine. So anyway, I know you've heard me. Some of you may have had a chance to hear me complain about the bottling wine. It's really a very infrequent opportunity, but we got it going. So with a lot of help. Luis Alberto, one of the vineyard guys, he's like rocked it totally. He's like the new world expert on the bottling wine. But we have finally got it going, so that is very exciting. So anyway, it's. So I'm just gonna knock on wood. I'm not gonna say it's working, but so far we've got about 3/4 of the wines bottled, and we've got a bunch of bottling that we're hoping to do next week. So. It's going. So that feels like a major victory because it's been a year of trying to figure out how to use this thing and get the right parts and put it together. And anyway, so
it's a complicated machine.
It's a lot of parts. It is a lot of moving parts. It's a little scary. So anyway, so we're feeling good that it's
bottling machine queen.
The bottling machine is going mostly. So anyway, so there's that. That's good. Our neighbors are coming and trying to make us laugh in the background, like literally. And so we have got all rid of all the kids.
That's right.
All right. So are there any other questions? Otherwise, here we go. How often do you like to hold before you release? Oh yeah, good question. Very good question. So this is kind of funny because these wines were bottled like, we were bottling them and the bottling guys were like, what? How long are we going to keep these? And I was like, I think as they come off the line, they're driving the rosé up the driveway. It's not quite true, but it was pretty close. Like we were driving it from the winery to the tasting room because they were eager to let it get out there. It depends on the wine. I mean, we do really, really, really try to make sure that the wines have the time they need in the bottle before we release them. Rosé is the kind of thing that like, this is not going to age a lot in bottle. As long as the bottling was done well, then it's going to taste fine right away. Some of the other ones need a little more time to kind of settle down because they just get shaken up a lot. Even if we're super careful with the bottling, like they're getting pumped, they're going through hoses, they're going up, they're getting splashed into the bottle. Like there's only so gentle that you can be. So we do probably push our luck a little bit on releasing things. Because people want them. And so, yeah. But I know once or twice over the years, we've sent something out and said like, you should keep this for a couple of months or you should decant it or, we talk a lot about the like how much your own taste and your own style is, important when you're deciding when a wine is ready to drink. So I tend to like wines that are a little more tannic, a little bigger, a little more like you might say harsh. So that's earlier on in the like right after their bottle, they're going to be more that way. So I often will say like, oh, I think this wine's ready to go. And Ed would say like, he'd like it better in a few months. So it's a little bit what you like. And then often one little just trick is you can see how a wine is developing if you open it and it feels a little too tannic or a little tight, like you're not getting all the flavors you want. If you just give it time, and it can be in your glass and airing it, or you can just put the cork back in and leave it in the, leave it out for the next day or two. It will kind of accelerate that aging where you'll get it to soften up pretty fast. So it's a little bit of just
the new building that we you see it down by the barns, we created this new building. That's going to help with this issue because you imagine if we want to hold on to our wines for 3 years, we need 3 times as much storage space because all those wines just have to sit somewhere. So we now have space to actually hold things, at least for a few years until we fill it up. But we will have some space to hold some things, which is great.
That building is completely full. I'm telling you, it's ridiculous.
No,
it's so full. Oh, it's terrible. It's terrible. It's always like, yes, it is full. We'll have to. It's not stacked up. Nothing's stacked up yet, but it feels so giant. It feels full already. Anyway. Oh, so yes, that'll make a big difference. And then
there's a question about when will our sparkling wine release? So this is a related question because the sparkling wines get better the longer you hold them in bottle. So they're in the bottle with their yeast. The yeast are breaking down. We're getting more of those brioche or toasty
like bread dough
flavors, which you love and we love anyway in the sparkling wines. The longer you leave them on the lees like that on the yeast, the more of that you get. But again, you have to have space to keep them all for many, many years. We're guessing we're gonna bottle some sparkling, it's already bottled, but
disgorge and get ready to sell. Yeah,
ready to sell some next year. No, the year after. I'm not sure.
Winter
probably a year and a half.
23, 24 before we have it ready to go.
Yeah, maybe 2 years.
Yeah,
we'll
see. It's possible. It's possible we could do a little tiny bit first. The chispa that we released, if we disgorge what we have in bottle now, this winter will be the same age. Okay. So, but we would like to maybe give it a little more time. We'll see. Yeah, we'll see what the winter brings. We might just be too lazy. Then we'll give it another year. It's good for the wine. Procrastination. Sometimes it's good. We like to make wine.
You want to make procrastination. It's good.
You're a procrastinator.
And what happens is we made a little bit 2 years ago. I made some this year. The longer we wait, that means everything will be aged better. More. Yes, it's true. It just will be.
You can have a little patience. Yeah.
So hopefully
it'll be worth it. But we made a fair amount of that first one, so we might be able to siphon off a little bit and then not do all of it. So Teresa had a question about the Viento. Yeah, the Viento I think could probably use a little more time. Again, it's a little bit a question of taste, but I think it would certainly benefit from a few more months in the bottle. If you open it and it just feels like a little bit tight, again, just give it time. You can decant it. I'm usually too lazy to decant anything, but you certainly can just pour it into another change. You can just take your wine when you're pouring it. Even this is the lazy woman's way to decant. If you've got a steady hand, you just pour it and then just come up, and you don't get it on the table. You get a little, and you get a little extra air. All those things will help to make your wine a little readier to drink a little sooner. If you're feeling like it needs more time, it needs more air. Yep. I have a spell. That's okay.
Yeah.
So it's a little bit a matter of taste, but yeah.
But it's drinking really well right now. That's why we released it. It's going to get better the next few months, of course. But I wouldn't hesitate a bit to drink it right now. It's really good.
Yeah. So that one. There you go.
So,
I think we're down to logistics time, unless I missed Cab Franc. There's a lot of Cab Franc. It is a lot of Cab Franc, and it's very Cab Franc in profile, I would say.
Absolutely, yes.
It does have that kind of pepperiness, and you can.
Yeah, the Viento is blended to that. In fact, this one is I think 10% Petit Verdot, and the other 90% or something is Cabernet Franc. Yeah, and tends to be in that Cabernet Franc profile of taste, which is great.
Which, you want to describe the Cabernet Franc profile? Or what you mean by that?
A little bit of herbaceousness in a good way, and then a lot of red fruit. That Viento has
some pepperiness. I feel
pepperiness, just very different than a lot of our wines. If we're looking for a red wine that's different than everything else we make, that one Viento is very different.
It's different.
It's nice. So.
Okay. What's next to bottle? We still have to bottle the Slate, the Crumbling Rock, the M, and the Cosecha, which are all coming. If all goes well, they will be bottled by the end of this time next week. Maybe Monday or Tuesday of the following week. We'll see, but that's coming. Coming. Oh, there you go. Karen's got the stats. 87% Cabernet Franc, 13 Petit Verdot. So that's
there you go.
pretty well.
That's close.
Right. Good memory. There you go. All right. So I have logistics. We're nearly at the end of our hour here. So we talked a little bit about Father's Day weekend, which is coming up, or any, you know, it's the same weekend, the fathers, even though we're trying to give the fathers a little more. Father's Day weekend does land on the same weekend as Juneteenth, which will probably land on most of the time. So we're doubling up because what can you do? So, and that's so Friday through Monday, we'll be doing, like I said, we're going to take the leaf stone and just have different foods to pair with it. And some of our thoughts on what your experience might be like if you do that. And then because it's Father's Day, there'll be like a little kid snacky donut hole kind of addition to go, which you can share with your children, or you cannot, whatever, as you wish. My children would hear nothing about it if I were having it, but it is there if you were that nice. So that'll be at the farm, and you'll get an email about it in the next day or two. It's in the works. And as we've been doing more and more, you could pre-order it, you could have it to go, you can show up and get it, whatever you want to do, but we're trying to make it a little easier. So that's coming. And this is not, well, you guys know, it's the weekend of the 19th and the 20th. So not 2 days from now, but in another week. And then this Saturday though, because I'm doing everything backwards, this is second Saturday. So we have got Craig Rosendale playing, and who's the food truck? Stoker's Barbecue. I got to get my glasses for this. So the barbecue truck and music and the usual. And you can make your reservation. You can email us. You can get online, or, you know, we'll always squeeze you in if you just show up, but it always helps. So Crumbling Rock versus the World. I know many people, I know we lost Lynn and Bill, they were there. I know a lot of people are signed up for that. It's this Saturday. Oh, there you are. You just moved around on my screen. I don't know. Anyway, so this Saturday, we're going to stick to it. Rain or shine, we're going to find a way to go inside if it's raining, because we cannot keep rescheduling this event. So we're going to figure it out. And I think because we had to move it, we lost a few people. So if anybody is out there who still would like to come and did not, I think we have a few more spots that we could squeeze in. And if, just email Mel or Zoe or whatever. And if any of you don't know what it is, it's we went around to, I think, 5 different wine stores in Maryland and said, hey, if a customer came in and asked for Crumbling Rock and you were out of it, what would you sell them instead? And we bought examples of those 5 wines, and we're going to blind taste them versus the 2019 Crumbling Rock as a group. It's kind of fun. And I'll be emceeing, and we'll have a lot of fun. You got your mic and everything. You're like, oh. So we did this first in 2008, 9, 10, maybe, when we first opened. The 2006 Crumbling Rock just got a lot of buzz. So, and it was something new for Maryland, and we were out of, nobody had heard of us. It was kind of exciting, but we decided we just wanted to see, like, okay, this is a kind of a good wine for this area, or for some new people or whatever, but like, how would it hold up against the kind of worldwide competition? So we had the idea of doing that, and then we've done it a few times. We used to do it fairly often, and then there were a few interruptions in the world, you might have noticed. And so it's been a while. It's been a few years since we've been able to do it, but we're excited to have it come back. It's usually a pretty fun afternoon, a lot of tasting, and you taste everything blind first, and then everybody has a chance to decide what they like and vote on your favorite wine. And then Ed has done a bunch of research on the other wineries and kind of how those wines are made, and how the what's similar to how we do it, what's different, what are the wine regions like, anyway, if you really are into the details of wine, this is an afternoon for you. I did have a nightmare the other day that I showed up and had to do the talk and had no information. Ted literally was like, called Ed to ask him what to say, and he had nothing. Anyway, these are my stories. That's the classic nightmare of, I didn't study for the test. It's the final exam, and I haven't been to class all year. Right? And I called my friend, and he literally in my dream said, just don't plant Syrah near the water. And I was like, I have 2 hours to entertain people, and there's no Syrah. Anyway, sorry, I'm sharing too much. So my anxiety is a crazy time. There you go. So you will not have to hear me complain about Syrah, but you will learn lots of fun things. Summer Wine Dinner is coming. This is August 19th. And I think details to look for.
Wait, I think Zoe just said it's August 20th.
Or 20th, sorry. I thought it was 20th, and I was like, no, it says so August 20th.
That was my fault.
That's all right. It's a Saturday, it's the 20th. We'll probably have the rain date at the Sunday, right? Isn't that what we usually do? We'll see. Anyway, details will come, but that's something fun to look forward to at the end of August, where we'll have the new releases at that point, and a great pairing with Canapés, who seems to be doing just a fabulous job lately with our, finding good things to go with our wines. So
great.
That is the next happy hour is September 15th.
Whoa.
Same place.
Harvest happy hour.
I know, harvest happy hour. A lot should happen in our vineyard between now and then, for sure. So
we may be dirty at that one.
Yes,
sorry.
Exactly. I know, we cleaned up for this. I think, did I miss any logistics? I think those were the basics.
Great.
You know where to find us. So anyway, well, thanks to everybody. I see a lot of people who were on the cruise with us have chimed in, so that's fun. So we are welcome home, everybody. It's good to see you're back. We had a lot of fun on that, floating around and drinking a lot of wine. So there may be future ones in the works. We'll see. Yep. TBD. And thank you all for tuning in and for keeping on coming out. And summer is coming, so we're feeling like there's going to be some fun times out at the vineyard. So it's great to see everybody. All right. Take care. Bye.
Thanks much, everybody.
Thanks.